Getting ready for a job interview with a nonprofit organization? Here are some of my top tips for your interview as an executive director who has hired my fair share of staff. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Amber Melanie Smith, and I am a nonprofit founder and executive director of the nonprofit that I started. I make videos here on YouTube to help people who are out there making a difference in a number of ways, whether that's through starting a nonprofit or participating in social enterprise or public service, what have you. I hope that you find this video helpful and useful, especially if you're looking for a job with a nonprofit organization right now, and that you give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. If you're on the other side of this and you're thinking of starting a nonprofit, definitely check out my website, foundertofulltime.com. I've got some trainings and resources up there for people starting nonprofit organizations, and I hope that those help you out too. Okay, so working for a nonprofit is probably going to feel a bit different from working for your typical business, and thus the job interview process is going to feel a little different too. Many people, especially these days, are drawn to nonprofit jobs because they offer an opportunity to make a difference in the world while making a living. So here are my top 7 tips for a nonprofit job interview. Check these out and good luck. Tip number 1 is ask before you go. So ask questions before you go. Like, who will be interviewing you? What are their roles in the organization? Or is there a specific dress code that they prefer you adhere to during the job interview if it's something other than standard business professional? If someone reached out to ask clarifying questions before an interview, I would not think that was a bad thing. I would think that that is a sign that they are being diligent. Now, if you don't have any questions, that's fine too. But if you do, don't hesitate to ask and get that clarification before you step into the interview room. And regarding asking about who will be doing the interviewing, it's important to know perhaps some of the context about who will be in the room and why. I know for my organization, though I as the executive director would have the final say in hiring staff that I'll be managing, I might also opt to have someone who would be that role's direct supervisor in the room. After all, that's the person that has to work with them most often. I might also invite someone into the room who has a particular skill set or expertise or knowledge that is related to the role that we are hiring for. If someone is a marketing professional and maybe that's not my strong suit and we're hiring for someone who's going to be like a marketing assistant, I might want that marketing professional in the room to help me verify that the candidate knows what they're talking about. So just a little bit more about who you might expect to see. It's not always going to be one person, though it might also be one person. And just being prepared for that interview environment when you go in. And on the attire front, you might assume that business professional is just what you should always do in an interview, and in some cases it's fair to have that as your default setting, but I know for my organization we are pretty casual, and I probably would not be offended if you wore like nice jeans or something to an interview. Tip number 2 is, of course, do your homework. You want to understand the organization's mission and vision at the very minimum. Now, for those less familiar with the terminology, the vision is going to be like the organization's end game. What is their ultimate goal? Is it a world without child poverty? Is it a world in which there are a million trees planted? So that's like the long term, the end game, if you will. And then the mission describes a little bit more about how they work to achieve that vision. So you want to understand these pieces, the vision and the mission, but you also want to research on their website and study the organization a little bit more to understand what their programming is. What are the day-to-day activities that the organization undertakes in order to achieve and work towards that mission and vision? Tip number 3 is to make it personal. In addition to understanding the organization's mission and vision and basic elements of their programming, you really want to come into the interview knowing and being able to explain what you see as your personal role in helping the organization achieve its vision and mission. And depending on the role that you are applying for, it could be any number of things. If you are applying for a Programmatic role, it could literally be activities that you'll be doing on the ground to further the mission. If it's a marketing role, then you'd be helping further the awareness of the cause and bringing in support for the cause. Same with fund development. You want to understand the organization's mission and vision and all that, and as a fund development person, you're going to need to learn how to sell it so that people will support the cause through financial means. And if you're applying for an operations role, those roles are super critical in nonprofits too. So those roles are like the backbone of the organization and making sure that things are running smoothly behind the scenes so that the program folks on the ground and the marketing, the fundraising folks out on the streets trying to get support can all be doing their jobs efficiently without worrying about whether the organization has its lights on. Now, I know when I'm hiring, experience is important for sure, but the top things that I really look for are passion and talent. And that's because on the talent side, at least, you know, you can be trained. You can be, if you've got the talent and the competency, you can be trained to do a particular role, even if you don't have the exact experience of that role. And on the passion side, I want to know, why do you want to work for our nonprofit and further our mission? Not just why do you want to work for any nonprofit, but ours specifically. Why do you care about our cause and want to be a part of making it happen? And a little bit more on that. What would you be looking for from this position that you weren't able to achieve or feel fulfilled by in a previous position? Number 4 is explain how your unique skills apply to the job you're applying for. Let's say your past jobs, your past experiences aren't exactly synonymous with the role that you are applying for in a nonprofit. I would say that doesn't disqualify you, as long as you can explain how those past experiences and activities can be transferable or translatable into the position that you're hiring for. I also think it's really important to highlight any volunteer or pro bono experience that you have on your resume. That is completely valid and important experience building and skill building work that the nonprofit interviewer needs to know about. Number 5, come into the interview understanding what you need in a nonprofit workplace. No single nonprofit is alike. And I have had experiences where someone maybe came in to interview for a position and assumed that we were this like huge, robust, large scale organization with all this infrastructure, and this was some time ago, and realizing that we were more like a startup. We were smaller, we had to be innovative and entrepreneurial and very fast paced. And for that particular person, that was not necessarily the fit that they were looking for. They wanted something a little bit more stable and slow-paced. And so understanding that nonprofit work environments are all different and understanding what you might expect from that organization's work environment is going to save yourself and the interviewer a lot of headache should you get hired and find that the culture, the pace, the expectations, the infrastructure is not quite what you had in mind. Now, on the other hand, some people really love that fast-paced entrepreneurial environment, in which case that would be a great fit for you. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I'm just saying that you should know the type of environment that you're looking for and be able to align with the environment that you're going to be getting into if you get the job. And there are really pros and cons to either. You know, a smaller startup feeling nonprofit might only be able to offer a smaller salary because their budget is smaller. However, you might have greater influence in shaping the organization's future because you are a bigger piece of a smaller puzzle. On the flip side, a larger organization might be able to offer some of those higher salaries, but it might feel more bureaucratic or slow-paced. You might be able to tell that I have a little bit of a bias towards small organizations here, but it really doesn't matter what I think. What matters is just you knowing what you're looking for in a work environment. Tip number 6 is be authentic. Ultimately, you want to know, and the interviewer wants to know, that if you get the job, you're gonna feel like you are comfortable, that you can bring your whole self to the job, and you're gonna feel at home. People, when they feel this way, can help create a really awesome, healthy organization culture that makes everyone feel supported and taken care of. And when people feel that way, they tend to do better at their work as well. So I would say bring your true personality into the job interview and look for the true personalities of your interviewers too. It is so refreshing to me when I'm able to interview a candidate and I just see like a quirky side of them that, you know, you might not see in a typical corporate job interview or environment. I find that really endearing, and I feel like it's authentic. Tip number 7, final tip, and this is a big one, and it is ask your own questions too. Look, all work, employment, jobs are a two-sided contract. The organization, your employers, they need to trust in you to do a good job, and you need to be able to trust in them to have your back. You need to feel great about your leadership, and leadership needs to feel great about you. So come up with questions to ask the interviewers about the organization, about their work with it, things that you are genuinely curious about. What is the work culture like? What are some of the most challenging activities, the most fun activities? Really get a sense of what working with that organization would look like. And if you can get those answers from your interviewers, then you're gonna have a lot better time if you get that position and want to stick around longer, which is great for the organization and its mission too. All right, are you preparing for a nonprofit job interview? What are some of the questions that are on your mind that maybe I didn't cover within this video? I'd love to hear about it. Share in the comments below. Or maybe you are a nonprofit hiring manager. I'd love to hear what are some other tips that you would offer to people that are interviewing for nonprofit job positions. Share those also in the comments below. As I mentioned before, if you are on the other side of this and looking to start a nonprofit, I've got some great resources on my website, foundertofulltime.com, so check those out. I also do a newsletter for nonprofit leaders and changemakers all around the world with articles and funding opportunities that I come across and all sorts of good things. So check out the link to subscribe to that in my description, and you can of course opt out anytime. Finally, I have a Facebook group called Change the World or Bust. Myself and 3,000 other folks from around the world are in there now at this point, having great conversations about the work that we're doing to make a difference and how we can support each other along the way. Thanks as always for watching. I hope you check out my other videos and enjoy those. So I hope to see you next time. Once again, this is Amber Melanie Smith, and see you later.